everyone, it's Sarah, Painter Creator here. I hope you're having a lovely day. I'm just easing myself back into painting after a bit of a crash with my medical condition. So I've just set this little cherub up. It's going to be a little robin on a log with some apple blossom around, because I've seen a few robins through the window and I just want to paint little and gentle today. So why not just pause it, either take a screenshot and copy it or sketch it out yourself, and let's join in with a gentle paint together of this robin. So I hope you've done that. So I'm working on an A5 piece of paper today, my usual Creative Peak. I'm also using my medium mop brushes. I'll probably use my Winsor & Newton number 4 round, and maybe a rigger brush or a detail brush. So I'm just going to spritz my paper with my little spritzer bottle just to get some moisture on there. I don't want too much. I've given my paints a good spritz because they've not been used for a couple of days, and I've got my paper towel ready. So let's paint together. So the paints I'm using are Winsor & Newton paints, but you could use whatever paints you want. So a little bit of cerulean blue with lots of water. So I'm just going to, nice spring day, and that little bit of spritzer bottle will just help give you that sense of some lost and found parts of the remembering that so it gives some lovely little lost and found spaces, and I'm going for darker up near the top, painting just carefully around the bird, and then lighter towards the bottom. And lighter in watercolour just means more water. And because I'm putting this on with a wet on dry approach, it will remain roughly this colour. When you put it on wet, you end up diluting the colour even further, so you need to just keep that in mind. I'm going to put the blue all the way across, even though the sky isn't here, just for a little bit of a tonal effect. And I'm going to let that dry whilst I have a little drink and put my feet up again. Okay, I'm back with you. This is it's drier, dry enough to work in. It's gone flat near enough. There's a little bump there still, so I just need to be careful. So I'm going to work in for the base layer of the apple blossom. So I'm just doing some permanent rose with some Chinese white to get a really delicate pink, and then I'm just going to put that, I've just gone onto my small mop brush and I'm just putting that base layer on. That's a leaf. I don't want that. One down here. And the mop brushes are really good because they hold the water nicely. And the point allows you to sort of be more precise. So I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to do a little bit of sap green and yellow ochre. The yellow ochre just makes it a little bit more olivey for the base layer of the leaves. I'm trying to remember to keep it nice and loose. There's little buds up here. There's some little leaves. Little strokes for the leaves. Not quite jaggedy edges. A few up here. And the leaves sort of create a frame in some ways for your painting. So just some sort of careful thought as to where you're putting them helps bring the eye into the picture. Just put a little one over here somewhere. This sort of green underpainting to what will be a brown stem again helps harmonise it. And we can go back onto the top of the leaves with a different colour once it's dry. I'm going to just put some Payne's grey and burnt umber together for the log, so it makes like a grey browny colour. I'm just going to add a little touch of ultramarine blue into that mix now, just for a little bit of a colour change. And I'm trying to keep it painty like. And keep the direction of that log. Again, we can go over the top of that if we need to, but I quite like that. I'm just going to get some burnt umber on my palette, a little bit more water, so it's got a bit more movement. And some Payne's grey, just to put a little bit more of a brown tone. little bit of ultramarine in there. So the top, I'm going to add some raw umber into that mix. For a brush, take some of the water out and just push it across. And I might just drop in a little bit of burnt sienna just to warm that top of the wash up. And a tiny bit of ultramarine into that mix, just for the area underneath where the shadow will be. And guess what? I'm going to leave that to dry. So whilst we're leaving that to dry, we can mix up some raw umber and a little bit of burnt sienna. I want the robin to be a little bit warmer than these colours. And you can just swap onto whichever brush you feel is most comfortable for you. And I'm just going to add a little bit of burnt umber on my palette and some ultramarine, and basically work all those colours together with a little bit of burnt sienna, just so that we've got a few different colours going on. I even add a little bit of yellow ochre into there, just to mix up a little bit of different colours. Drop a little bit more ultramarine into the base of that tail. A bit more burnt sienna in this mix now. Trying to get that really nice round head shape of the robin. So just dropped a little bit of burnt sienna in the mix for the wing, just so that the wing stands out a little bit different. I'm just going to drop a little bit of ultramarine into that base of that wing. Trying to leave those little spaces because that's the sun just sort of glinting off on the belly of our robin. So a tiny little bit of ultramarine and some raw umber for, oops, that's where the red's going, but never mind, we can go over the top of that. Just going to drop in a little bit of shadow colour underneath and down those legs. While it's down, we better get some red So the breast of the bird's quite orangey. So I've gone for a cadmium red and a little bit of yellow ochre. And then I'm going to add into that some New Gamboge yellow, which is a much brighter yellow. And it mix on the palette. Might need a little bit more red in there. So I want to sort of go under and around. Okay, so I'm going to just let that dry off before I see if I need to add any more red into that mix, but I think we're looking good. So here we are, we're back. I've given that a blast with a hairdryer, and you can always tell because the tape lifts off the board and you do end up with it a little bit more buckly than if you let it dry naturally. So I want to go back into here and just put another layer of pink on. So I'm just picking up a little bit of alizarin crimson, still quite watery. Alizarin crimson is a lovely colour because it's translucent, so you'll still see this beautiful pale pink underneath, but it will dry with another layer showing through. Plenty of water. Remember, if you are struggling to control the water, just tap your brush on a paper towel and that will help. Just bring that forward because we want these to be loose. I forgot that was a leaf. I'll have to go back and do that as a leaf. Got a tiny bit of that green. Let's go back and pop that leaf colour in that we were working with. Let that dry. So I'm going to just pick up my little number 4 round and just check it's clean yet, and a little bit of Payne's Grey and Ultramarine mix. If you haven't got Payne's Grey, you can always add a little bit of black and ultramarine together, and that works. So I'll darken that in a little bit with just some pure Payne's Grey, but I'll come back to that. And likewise, I will use some black, some lamp black for his eye. Controlling on my paper towel, just touching the edge just helps me to control. And I've got a nice number 0 round. And potentially we could make that a bit smaller, but it's not the end of the world. So I'm going in with this mixture of Payne's Grey, Ultramarine, these browns that are on my palette, and just going to put some little feather marks into the top of this wash. And then down this little tail. And I'm just going to pop in his little spindly feet. Just going to darken some of his beak. And pick up with a first brush. Okay, we're doing all right. So we're going to just put another layer on top of some of these leaves. So ultramarine, sap green. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow ochre into there as well. Like the base colour had the yellow ochre in. And I'm just using a small mop brush. I'm trying to leave some of that base wash so that it shows through. And if you want to vary the tone, you can add a little bit more ultramarine in, or a little bit more Payne's Grey even. Okay, so with my little number 0 brush, I'm going to go back up into this robin with some cadmium red and Gamboge yellow mix to make a nice bright orange, less water. And I'm just going to go in and make some of those sort of fluffy feather marks and strengthen this bit around his eye. I think I'm going to need little bit of Dr. Martens bleed proof on that eye, just to make it right. But I'm not worrying because painting is fun. It's not something to worry about. So I'm just going to run a bit of a dry brush around here with this darker paint, just to get some texture. So I'm nearly finished. I'm going to do this sort of yellowy greeny colour on the insides of the apple blossoms with that green that I used for the leaves with some yellow ochre in it. Fairly thick. A little bit of that alizarin crimson. Do a little bit more to that. Look like opening bud. So I'm just picking up my darks that are on my palette, and I'm just going to run some darks through. Some of this connectivity on this little bramble bush. Little blackberry bush, I think, on here. A bit of shadow. Okay, so I'm going to just finish off with my gouache actually, rather than my Dr. Martens white. It's just white gouache, small. Actually, I've got a 0.3 here, a really, really fine one. Straight from, and I use the lid. So I'm going to just put a nice glint in their eye. And a nice sort of piece here to just try and reduce the eye a little bit, because I went a little bit too much on there, and perhaps a little tiny highlight across there. Where's the other bud? There we go. So we've got a Mr. Robin. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Really gentle, nice, gentle get back into painting for me. And I hope it's enjoyable for you. So the usual, like and subscribe, tell your friends about our space, especially if they are chronically ill like me, because that sharing that joy with each other really does help. So I could go around the leaves and things, but I don't think I want to. I might do the top of this just so that I've got something. But quite like that. That little bit of pen just to darken the black of the eye just reduces it a little bit. But quite a cute little chappy there. So have a lovely day, folks. Enjoy your painting, and I shall see you sometime. Like, subscribe, the works, and I'll see you later.